The mountain air was thin, sharp with the smell of pine and cold earth. Snow still lingered in the shadows of the ridge, even as spring pushed green grass up through the soil. Jeremiah Cole, 38 years old, broad-shouldered and quiet as stone, was cutting firewood outside his lonely cabin. His axe split logs in a steady rhythm, the sound echoing like a drumbeat across the valley. That's when he heard it. A child's voice, thin and breaking through the silence. "Mister, please?" Jeremiah froze, axe halfway through the next log. The cry wasn't the kind that begged for candy or called after a wandering dog. It was the raw cry of desperation, the kind that twisted in a man's gut. He dropped the axe and turned. A girl, no more than 7, stumbled from the tree-line. Her cheeks were streaked with dirt and tears. Her dress was torn, one sleeve hanging loose, her braids undone. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she ran toward him, clutching a ragged doll in one hand. "They're beating my mama," she choked out. For having a manly body." The words made no sense at first, but the fear in her eyes, round, wet, unblinking, left no room for disbelief. Jeremiah's blood ran cold. He snatched his rifle from the porch, his boots heavy as he strode toward the girl. "Show me," he said, voice low but steady. She turned, stumbling back the way she'd come. He followed, his strides long and sure. The forest swallowed them both, branches clawing, roots twisting beneath their feet. The sound came before the sight, the ugly chorus of men's voices, jeering, the crack of something striking flesh, a muffled cry. They broke into a clearing. 5 settlers stood in a half-circle, laughing and spitting insults. And there, on her knees in the dirt, arms shielding her face, was the woman. She was no fragile thing. Broad-shouldered, tall, with the kind of frame made for hard work. Her dress clung awkwardly against her body, sleeves rolled to reveal muscled arms. She was bleeding from the lip, hair wild, her breath short. Her body shook with both rage and shame. One man sneered. "Told ya she ain't natural. Look at her shoulders. Oughta be out wrestling oxen instead of playing house." Another laughed and kicked her side. She grunted but didn't fall. The girl beside Jeremiah screamed, "Mama!" Jeremiah didn't think. He stepped into the clearing, rifle raised. His voice cracked like thunder. "Enough." The men turned, laughter dying in their throats. Jeremiah's figure filled the edge of the trees, tall, broad, shadowed by the sinking sun. His eyes burned beneath the brim of his hat. "You touch her again," he said, "and I'll lay every one of you in the ground." Silence. Even the birds hushed. The men muttered, shifted. Jeremiah's rifle never wavered. His presence carried weight, the kind born not from shouting but from years of living with nothing but silence and survival. Finally one spat. "Ain't worth it. She ain't worth it." They slunk back into the woods, curses fading with their retreat. The clearing stilled. Jeremiah lowered the rifle, exhaling slow. He looked at the woman, bloodied, dirt-streaked, shoulders still trembling. For a moment she met his gaze. There was no thanks in her eyes, only suspicion, and a flicker of something long buried. He crouched, offering his hand. "You're safe now." She hesitated, then took it. Her grip was strong, almost too strong, as if she feared letting go. They returned to Jeremiah's cabin in silence. The girl clung to her mother's skirts, glancing back as though the shadows might spit out more cruelty. Inside, the fire burned low. Jeremiah fetched water, a clean rag, bread hardened but still good. He set them on the table without a word. The woman dabbed at her lip, silent. The child ate quickly, crumbs dotting her dress. Jeremiah sat across from them, hat in his lap, watching without staring. Her name, he learned, was Rachel. 30 years old. Settler-born, raised to plow fields and mend fences. Her husband had died the year before, leaving her with their daughter, Maggie. She worked the land herself, her strength mocked by neighbors who whispered she was more man than woman. That whisper had grown into something sharper, crueler. "They don't see me," she murmured once, her eyes fixed on the fire. "Just what I ain't." Jeremiah understood more than he spoke. He knew the taste of judgment, the weight of silence when others decided you were not enough, or too much. He had lived alone for years because words had failed him long ago. His only language left was action. So he split extra wood for her, sharpened tools without asking, left the choicest cuts of venison by her plate. Small gestures, steady as snowfall. Rachel noticed. Slowly, the suspicion in her eyes softened. Maggie, bright as a flame, filled the silence with questions. "Mister, why you live way out here? Don't you get lonely?" Jeremiah gave the faintest smile. "Sometimes." "Not anymore," she said matter-of-fact, and leaned her head against her mother's arm. But peace is never left alone. One evening, as storm clouds bruised the horizon, a neighbor rode hard up to Jeremiah's cabin. His horse steamed, nostrils flaring. The man's voice shook. "They're coming? Those settlers you ran off, they're gathering others. Saying Rachel's an abomination, saying they'll run her out or worse." Jeremiah's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked to Rachel, who stood rigid in the doorway. She didn't cry, didn't beg. She only clenched her fists, her shoulders squared, like a soldier preparing for the inevitable. The storm broke that night. Rain slashed the mountainside, wind howled like wolves. Jeremiah and Rachel worked wordlessly, barricading doors, shuttering windows, checking rifles. Maggie clung to her doll, eyes wide but unblinking. The cabin flickered with firelight, shadows crawling across the walls. Every creak of the storm could have been footsteps. Every gust of wind, a shout. Then the real thing. Torches bobbed in the trees. Voices rose, cruel and sharp. "Come out, freak. Ain't no place for you here." Jeremiah stood tall, rifle in hand. Rachel stepped beside him, her face pale but unyielding. The storm drenched them both in sweat and rain. The settlers burst into the clearing, 10 maybe 12. Faces twisted by hate, torches sputtering in the downpour. "Step aside, Cole," one barked. "Ain't your fight." Jeremiah's voice was iron. "She's under my roof. That makes it my fight." The standoff stretched, the storm raging around them. Thunder cracked overhead, lighting their faces in flashes. A man lunged forward, raising his club. The crack of Jeremiah's rifle split the night, shattering a torch. Flames hissed out in the mud. "Next shot," Jeremiah growled, "ain't for wood." The mob faltered. But hate is stubborn. Another surged forward. This time it wasn't Jeremiah who moved. Rachel stepped in front. Her voice, low and trembling yet unbreakable, cut through the storm. "You call me less than a woman. But I've worked harder than all of you put together. I buried my husband with these hands. I've raised my child with these arms. If that makes me manly, so be it. But I won't bow to you." Her words were not shouted, but carried weight like stone rolled from a heart. The settlers hesitated. The storm roared. Then Maggie's small voice pierced everything. "Leave my mama alone." She stood in the doorway, clutching her doll like a weapon. Her tiny frame, her fierce eyes, something shifted in the men. Perhaps they saw, for a fleeting instant, the ugliness of themselves reflected back. One by one, torches lowered. Muttering, curses half-formed, they slunk back into the rain. Their fire dissolved into the night until only the storm remained. Silence returned. Rachel's breath shook, tears mixing with rain on her face. Jeremiah lowered his rifle, his hand brushing hers, brief, steady, grounding. "You stood taller than any of them," he said quietly. For the first time she smiled. Small, cracked but real. By dawn the storm cleared. The valley lay washed and clean, sunlight breaking through ragged clouds. Birds sang as if nothing had happened. But something had. Rachel sat on the porch, Maggie asleep against her side. Jeremiah stood nearby, splitting wood again, the rhythm steady and sure. She watched him, her eyes softer now, unafraid. The world was still cruel, still wild. But here in this cabin there was safety. There was dignity. Perhaps even the beginning of something more. The last image lingered. Rachel, tall and unbroken, her daughter nestled safe, Jeremiah's quiet figure beside them. A tableau of survival, of defiance, of unexpected love. And the old mountains, silent witnesses, seemed to nod in agreement. In the Wild West, cruelty often wore the mask of righteousness, and strength was twisted into shame. But dignity, true dignity, was found in standing tall even when the world spat you down. Rachel discovered it. Jeremiah guarded it. And together they carved a sanctuary where a child could finally rest. Now if this story stirred something in you, don't stop here. Click on the next tale on your screen. It runs deeper, it'll break your heart and mend it again. I'll meet you there, partner.